Welcome to the Better by Nature podcast, where we talk to folks with inspiring stories of overcoming adversity by relying on natural remedies. On today's episode, we're talking with Michele Boccardi about her remarkable and still unfolding journey of overcoming multiple different brands of adversity. Before we get started, this episode of the podcast is brought to you by Life Leaf Remedies. At Life Leaf Remedies, we are passionate about making natural remedies that help you feel better today. We are combining select cannabinoids like CBD, CBDA, CBN, CBG, CBC, and more with natural vitamins and nutrients to create effective natural remedies. If you're passionate about natural remedies to take better care of yourself and your loved ones, then check us out at lifeleafremedies.com today and get free shipping plus 10% off your order when you subscribe to any of our natural remedies. Now, I hope you'll sit back and enjoy this podcast and feel better today, y'all. Welcome to the Better Nature podcast, Michele. I am very excited to talk to you about your journey with natural remedies and some of the challenges you've faced, your son has faced, just your family in general. You have a really inspirational story, and in a lot of ways, it feels like you're still kind of at the starting line of that. So, where to begin?
Yeah, where to begin? First, Miles, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here, and I'm honored that you asked me to be here. You and I have a lot of like mindsets on things, and we've had some really deep conversations in the past 8 years. We've gotten to know each other. For one, I can't believe it's been 8 years, but anyways.
Yeah, wow.
So yeah, I am. Where would you like me to begin?
Well, this podcast is really meant to be about our journeys with natural remedies, but natural remedies are there for a reason, right? It's not because we woke up just feeling exceptional and ready to tackle all of our challenges every single day. Whoever those folks are out there, if you could start your own podcast and explain yourself, we would love that. But most of us wake up feeling some type of challenge, whether it's we've got something in our day that we've got to face. We've got some condition or some reason why, we're being held back from reaching our full potential. All of those things. So I guess, let me ask, where did your journey with natural remedies begin? Like, where did you decide that, I want to take care of myself with the things that the earth has given us, right? I want to kind of veer away from some of these other things that might be more harmful to me.
Yeah, so let me, I'll give you a quick synopsis on my story and why I made that jump over into a more natural. I was always somebody who always worked out, but I was on that workout journey for the wrong reasons. It was for the low self-esteem, the low bad body image. So it wasn't for the true health purposes that a health workout journey goes. It was for every wrong reason there could be out there.
Vanity, security, right?
Yes, insecurity, all of that aspect. And it was all for vanity, pure vanity. And I also at that time was in a relationship that I came to understand was very toxic. And how I came to realize that was I did the path of therapy, which I highly, you have a really good therapist. I highly recommend a therapy. I'm not putting down therapy at all. But I went to therapy to correct myself to make the other person happy.
Wrong reasons again.
Wrong reasons. So you see the kind of path I was on. And through this transformation in that journey, I had extremely high anxiety because I was not pleasing this other person. And so I was on those anti-anxiety meds. Well, then I couldn't get to sleep. So now we're on the sleep meds. So you're on anxiety sleep meds. And so you're still not healing anything. There's nothing
Right.
healing. There is this band-aid being placed on everything. So now I'm not eating, I'm drinking excessively, and I was extremely skinny. So that vanity was like, yes, look at me, I'm
Yeah.
skinny, and the whole thing. I was probably at the saddest I have ever been. And so, again, I had a wonderful therapist that backed me off of the medication. And I took a step of walking away from that relationship, which was the hardest and the best thing I've ever done in my life.
Oftentimes that's the combination, isn't it?
Yes, yes. And on a side note, I hid that relationship so well that even my children were shocked
Hmm.
that I walked away. And my children couldn't understand it because he had them convinced I was crazy.
Yeah.
And so now here I am alone on my own and what to do.
Right.
So the drinking still was there and the self, you know, there was no self love, nothing.
Yeah.
And somebody, honestly, and you'll hear this a lot, turned me on to that infamous movie, The Secret.
Oh yes. The movie, the book. Yep.
The
No.
book, the
Yep.
movie. And I started to understand there was a whole nother way of life. And I just started slowly by meditation, sitting in quietness, slowly by saying no and removing negative and toxic environments and people away from me. And I started to see a transformation within myself. Now, around this same time, my son was starting to make a transformation.
Right.
So I have two boys and I have two stepdaughters. My youngest son is a U.S. Marine. He fought in Iraq from '04 to '07, and he does have PTSD. So there's more in depth in his story,
Oh yeah.
and
He's got a big story.
he has a huge story. I can give surface, and he knows I give surface, and he doesn't mind me telling this part of his story. Um, my son did contemplate and try suicide and was unsuccessful. And so when he came home from the Marines, he dove very deep into the bottle also.
Right.
And then little by little, someone said to him one day, "Why don't you try a Tough Mudder?" Smirk on your face. And
I
so
love
we
it because
tried,
yeah, we've all heard that, right? Why don't you
yeah,
try Tough Mudder?
try a Tough Mudder.
Yeah.
And so he started the Shaun T insanity workouts to get into shape.
Yep. Yep.
And so he did a Tough Mudder. And he just like, so he did 90 days and he went out and did the Tough Mudder. And he was like, oh, that was great. And he came home and there was the drinking and everything. And then he did another one. And then he come home and I'd watch him do this and the whole thing. And then one day he said, well, what if I didn't drink and did a Tough Mudder?
Oh
Like, what
man.
would
What?
happen if I
Oh,
stopped
the
drinking?
possibilities.
Like, what if? And so that started his journey. Well, then he put together this group of 15 people of um, to raise money and let's all do this Tough Mudder out in Vermont. So of course, the good mom I am and wanting to support my son, and yeah, I work out.
Oh yeah.
Let's do a Tough Mudder together. Well, this Tough Mudder was at Mount Snow in Vermont. And we did it in June. And let's just put part of this course was still under snow
Ooh.
because that's how high it up it was.
Ooh. That sounds
And
fun.
it was.
Yeah.
And I still was like starting this journey. And I was getting hooked little by little because I started to see that strength coming in. But the mind still wasn't working out. up. So I started with that whole mindset aspect of journaling, of the um, what was I putting into my body? What was
Yes.
the fuel that was going into my body? What was the alcohol doing to my body?
Yep.
And we just started, I just started changing little things at a time. Now, with that, Jason and Amber started building. So now they went out and did the world's Tough Mudder.
Let me pause you
Yep.
because I think that you said something very important that might be
Excuse me, I'm going to
easily.
have a drink.
No, please look at that beautiful mug.
Mm-hmm.
Um, no, you said something very important that I think is easy to gloss over,
Sure.
but is probably one of the most important parts of the process that we're talking about of is just in terms of going on your call it a self betterment journey, trying to just get healthier, feel better. Do things like getting out and breathing oxygen, right? Instead of
Right.
sitting in and watching sitcoms or something like
Right.
that. And you said you started to change small things at a time. And I noticed, on my journey, a lot of folks will, I'll talk about what I've done or where I'm at, and man, you like running? I hate running. It's like, trust me, I used to hate running.
Oh, I hate
Believe
it.
me, used to hate it. It was a punishment, and so. But it's making those small changes. So for me, it was finding things that I could trade out for better things. So instead of having a Dr. Pepper with my fast food, let's just get a water. I'm still gonna get my Chick-fil-A, but just let me get a water. Or instead of getting the Lucky Charms, I'm gonna get me some Honey Bunches of Oats.
Yeah.
Just these small little trade-offs throughout my day. Water more for beverages than anything else, and then just trying to find ways to make better decisions is something that I did. So, zoom into that for me. What were some of those small changes that you started to make?
So simple as you said, I love my Diet Coke. You're a Dr. Pepper, I'm a Diet Coke. Fountain Diet Coke?
Oh,
Oh,
mm,
oh,
I
all
hear
day
you.
long, you know? So, okay, I have one fountain Diet Coke, and the rest had to be water.
There you go.
Um, if I was feeling down and out, feeling lonely, because now this was before I was in the relationship I'm in now. So there was this time period that I was starting this transformation. I started to get outside. I started to go out for a walk.
Yep.
That vitamin D
Yep.
aspect of it. I started to, if I was having a bad day, journal out what that feeling was. Like sometimes our mind gets into this hamster wheel,
Yes.
and what people don't understand is pen to paper is so therapeutic. And even if you do nothing with it, it's the emptying of that brain that helps you release that story that you keep telling yourself,
Hmm.
and you're the only one who's telling it to yourself.
Yep.
So it was things like that. It was, you know, um, I might get up and set my timer for a couple minutes, 10, 15 minutes, and clean something, because the environment you're in makes a huge impact
Hmm.
of what you're
Hmm.
doing. I might have shut everything off and sat quietly
Yep.
for 5 minutes. I'm not spending my whole day doing this. It's 5 minutes. I
You have to give
started to,
yourself that permission, right? Like,
yes. And I started to have a bedtime time and that 8 hour sleep. You know what I mean? I started to, so those little things, it is, and I am a firm believer of 80/20 in my eating.
okay.
I'm
80
a
good,
firm,
20 bad.
absolutely,
Absolutely.
absolutely, absolutely. And you also know who I live with, so you know there is bad.
You can't get away with 100% with that one.
No, absolutely. But so it was steps, and it's an excellent point, Miles, because I think I'm not a firm believer of New Year's resolutions,
I
because you
agree.
go in like, this is what I have to do. This is what I'm going to go in, and we do everything all at once, and we set ourselves up for failure.
Yep. No, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I don't think I've ever made a New Year's resolution.
I was one of those people, and now it's more like every day. Every day is a
Yeah.
new beginning. Every
Yep.
day that your eyes are open, it is a gift.
Yep.
And that's a day you can start one small thing. I read somewheres, I don't know if you've ever read the book Atomic Habits.
I have heard of it. I haven't read it.
Yes. Well, the biggest takeaway I took out of this book is every day, if you make 1% difference in whatever it is you want to do, at the end of a month, what is that percentage?
Yeah, it adds up quick, doesn't it?
Very fast.
Yeah.
So
No,
it
I
was,
agree with that.
yeah. So that is a philosophy that I go through.
And I think it's a tough one, right? I mean,
Oh,
that's why I wanted to zoom in on that because I think a lot of folks set out, I'm going to be on a diet, right? So now
yeah.
I'm going to cut carbs or whatever the trendy diet is, um, and it does create this expectation that's almost impossible to satisfy.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're just setting out, you know what, today I'm just going to make a trade off. I'm going to find a good trade off somewhere, right? Find the 30 minutes that I can go walk outside, instead of the 30 minutes that I'll sit down and
Yeah.
scroll my phone. And really once you're able to do that for you, right?
Hmm.
That's why we're talking about your reasonings and some of the stuff that you were doing. Once you're able to find those trade offs for you, there's no start date, there's no end date, there's no um, declaration. It's just making those incremental steps for you. And as you do, you talk about getting a month down the road. And I've done this with certain things like, sugar, for example, like just trying to
Hmm.
say totally no to sugar in certain cases, 80-20 in the most case, right? Like
Yeah.
get sugar from some good places like Honey or
Naturally.
something.
Yes.
But it's just saying no to the cookies that I could just as well pick up at
Yeah.
the end cap, right? Like
Yeah.
saying no to those things and just walk on by. Acknowledge the temptation and just walk on by. Once you've stacked that up,
Yeah.
then you've got some equity in the bank there. You don't want to mess that up. You don't want to
Absolutely
just
not.
go get a pack of M&Ms now and blow it all. It's like, well, now I've had one, I'll have more. Give me a sweet tea too while we're at it. So yeah, I just wanted to zoom in on that because I think that that's a step that probably gets overlooked by a lot of folks that are really well intended, have kind of a ball of motivation to work with, but burn themselves out on unrealistic expectations.
And and there is so much going on in everyone's lives.
Right.
In everyone's lives.
More now than
And
ever, right? We need to
right.
acknowledge that.
Yes. In the past 3 years and everything that's, it, and so we don't give ourselves enough grace.
No.
We don't give ourselves enough self love, self compassion. And the reason why I'm huge on taking those tiny steps is because you will see things happen and things start to, you build your own momentum
Mm-hmm.
without even realizing it. And
Exactly.
then what happens is your body craves the goodness and what the benefits you're doing for it, all the way over to where you felt like crap
Yeah.
and you
Mm-hmm.
had the brain fog and your skin looked lousy and you felt bloated and you wanted, all you wanted to do was sleep or you couldn't go to sleep. So when you move over into these small habits and bring this health in, all of a sudden you see these changes within your body internally and your brain.
Oh yeah.
People
Oh
don't
yeah.
even understand what it does to your brain. That's mind blowing.
Well, for me, what was most noticeable, was kind of transitioning away from alcohol, right? And it wasn't intentional. It's not like, all right, I'm not going to drink anymore. It was just a prioritization of habits, and alcohol wasn't convenient for any of that.
No.
Like my work, my marriage, any of that. And then I got so far down the path of it's not convenient, so it just didn't. We just never drank. That by the time I have a drink, it's like, oh man, one or two makes me feel terrible. I
Yeah,
feel horrible, and it's
I
like,
have
wow, I
not.
need to get hydrated ASAP. You know?
I have not actually. I've not had a drink since. Oh, you'll laugh at this date, January 6th. That was the last time I had
That is a
a
funny
drink.
date.
Yeah. But I was like, I was training for something, and I know we'll get to that in a moment.
Sure. Yeah.
But I have, my goal now is to not to, for no reason other for myself. And when I really want one, I sit down and I try to understand why.
Yeah.
Because in past relationships, in past uh, meetings with people, there was a lot of emphasis and hidden feelings drowned out by alcohol. So now I say, well, why do you want that drink? Like, what's the reasoning behind it? And I don't try to psychoanalyze everything in my life. And it's not like it's like a 5-second thought process, to tell you the
Right.
truth.
Right.
And if it's like, and so now I'm having fun with finding non alcoholic beers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm finding non alcoholic wines. I found out there's non alcoholic spirits out there. And so you can find tequilas and gin, so you can still make those drinks and still have that taste without the alcohol. And I'm
Right.
like,
Social placebo almost.
yeah. So I'm having fun with that.
Sure. Hey, and that's again, that's part of like just finding those places where you can make trade-offs,
Right.
right? Just
Right.
you don't have to change your entire lifestyle and shock the people around you to change yourself for the better. Because then again, there's a bad trade-off, right? Like
Yeah.
if you're going in and saying, "All right, well, I'm not drinking anymore." Well, all right, well, you're going to just remove yourself from every situation that involves drinking. That's a big shock. You're taking yourself away from your friends. That's a two-way street. Your friends don't like that, and you aren't going to like that.
No.
You're isolating yourself.
Yeah.
And so that's where, we do have to sort of acknowledge all these things. How do you make these trade-offs in a way that still can fit your, social and other areas of your life?
Yeah.
And that was for me a lot of reasons that, certain things came into my life, like running and things like that. So no, I think that that's a great way to acknowledge those trade-offs and kind of how you make that transition, and it isn't just this day where you embark on this Lewis and Clark journey and you'll never turn back and all. It's full of ups and downs. It's full of 2 steps forward, 1 step backwards, maybe 3 steps backwards sometimes.
There have been a few steps back within my
Yeah.
journey.
Yeah, and I think that that's part of it, that people have to be. That's where we need grace for ourselves, right? We have to be able to understand that nobody's journey is full of steps forward and no steps backwards. Nobody's.
I was just listening to somebody say, life is hard. That's it.
Yeah.
Life is hard. And if you
Period.
don't learn to give yourself grace, have self compassion, have self love on your health journey, you will never be in that right mindset. And that's what's
Right.
so important. And that's my passion, is this 360 of, you can take care of your body, but if your mind is not taken care of, then, as I told you in the beginning of my journey, it was all self-loathing that I had. So it was vanity of why I was working out, because my mind wasn't where it had to be.
Right.
And then you can have your mind in this really good space, but health-wise, you're not taking care of your body. And it's not, Miles, I want to make it perfectly clear. It's not about being skinny.
Exactly. No, I totally agree.
It's not about being skinny. So I don't think there's a size you have to be. It's not about size. It's about health. And then in this whole circle that you have to connect is, you need to bring in some form of spirituality.
Absolutely.
And I'm not talking about that. Spirituality is whatever sits with your heart.
Yes.
And
It's different for a lot of people.
Exactly. And that's fine. I know within I can bring 10 people into a room and 10 people have a different spirituality outlook. And I love that, because you can learn from all of it.
I totally agree. Yeah, you can.
So
But
then
it is important. I don't want to gloss over spirituality too much. And I do also want to comment on what you said about, it's not about being skinny.
Yeah.
I don't think you can say that loud enough or frequently enough, right? And I think a lot of people, this can go and apply in a lot of ways, but being skinny is a really easy way to illustrate what we deal with or what we face. A lot of people see outward results, right? They see somebody who is skinny or beautiful, and think, as if I look like that, I'll be good.
Right.
But what really good physique is a result of everything else we've talked about, right? It's a
Yeah.
result of taking care of yourself physically, mentally, and spiritually. And it's
Yeah.
not a pursuit of perfection by any stretch of the imagination. You can't get there. If you're getting to perfection in any one of those areas, the other areas are suffering. I think is is,
And
is a way to
there
look
is
at it.
no perfection. Everybody is unique.
Yeah.
So you cannot be perfect because there nobody will look at you with perfection
Right.
because
Right.
we're all created in our own uniqueness.
And we're all broken.
Wow.
If
And
y'all are
that's
out there
amazing.
convincing yourself you're not broken, you're lying. Stop it.
That's what's amazing about us because we're unique and we
Yeah.
get to be ourselves. And that's yeah, okay. That's why I get excited.
But it's good. These are the things that I think that aren't communicated enough, or maybe are communicated in the wrong ways in some cases. A lot of folks, hear things about vibes and spirit, or spirituality turns them off because they think that you're talking about hardcore biblical Catholic church. Like, it's like, no, like there's a lot of nuance to all of these things, and there's certainly types of things that are less positive than others,
Yes,
within each of these realms of mental health,
absolutely.
physical health, spiritual health. But it's important, I think, to hear other people and how they have found their balance across that spectrum.
Right.
And because we can all learn from that. And to me, what illustrates those things better than anything else is shared experiences, things that you have gone through that other people will hear and go, oh my God, that's what I'm going through. She made it, she did
Yeah.
it, or she's doing it, or here's how. There's inspiration drawn from that.
Yeah.
So I can continue on there, with the spiritual part of the journey and everything. I just wanted to make sure we touched on each of those.
Yeah. So I want to kind of fast forward a little bit because I was making this journey. I met somebody. I'm in a healthy, open, and honest relationship. Can we say who it's with?
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
It happens to be your dad. And that's how we
Yeah.
met 8 years ago. And it's just, I do believe the universe brings people together for reasons. People have crossed paths, and we laugh because in your dad and I getting to know each other, we found out we've probably crossed each other's paths in the last 20 years before we met, with your grandparents living in Naples, 4 miles away from my parents. But anyways, and then, unfortunately, in 2016, I lost my mom to cancer. And then I needed to start being a little bit form of a caregiver to my stepdad, because my stepdad was the old Italian. The wife did everything. And
Oh
so
yeah.
now I needed to step in. And it was funny. On his cabinet over his wash machine were instructions how to wash your clothes. And I had to teach him all of that stuff. Um, and unfortunately, he started his journey with cancer. And in 2019, he was on his way to the other side. And I was driving to the airport. And on my way to the airport, someone crossed the median and hit me head on at 70 miles an hour. And there's two parts to this story. My car was totaled, every single airbag in any form of my car, all the way around, went off. Thank God the both of us walked away from the incident.
Yeah.
4 hours later, I was back on a plane.
Unreal.
Um, the emergency room doctor said to me, I can't understand how you are okay, how you are. There is, and I've had my whole head scanned, the whole whatever. and allowing me to go. And I do, there's two benefits. I do benefit my higher power, and I do give it out to health and taking care of myself. And that whole, being, working on healthy, you know. And I went down to Florida. He passed, did everything I needed to, came home, started a new job, and suddenly lost my dad.
Yeah.
So at the end of 2019, I was in a head on collision. And in 17 days, I lost two men that highly impacted my life.
Yeah. I
Now,
don't think I can imagine just a set of circumstances like that.
there's two ways I can go.
Yeah.
And no one would have blamed me going this way.
No.
Meaning the self-pity, the alcohol. And I had my moments. Do not get me wrong.
Yeah.
I did. But I chose this way because of what I had been doing within my life. But I still needed to make some more changes. And you actually helped me with that because I was having, even though I had no major problems with my body, I was hit head on.
Right. 70 miles an hour.
Miles an hour.
This isn't like a little fender bender here.
No. So I had soreness within my body.
Yeah.
And I had some hip, not problems, just discomforts with it. So now I was trying to figure out how do I improve this? I believe in modern medicine when you need it. And there was a very easy way for me to go to modern medicine because I'm sure there was a pill I could have taken to cure that. And I do not put down any doctors, and you will hear in my story why I don't in a moment. But I wanted something that can be more natural.
Of course.
And you had introduced me to the CBD soft gel and the CBD rubs. And that was life-changing for my hip.
Yeah. And so just to restate, this is after a head-on collision.
Yes.
70 miles an hour. Somehow, you got an angel sitting on your shoulder going, here, let's make sure it goes just this way so you can just go ahead and see your stepfather, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Before he passes.
Yes.
I mean, listen, if you're in a head-on collision at 70 miles an hour, I'm sorry. I think that there's just like a default. You're going to be in the hospital for a week, right? Like there's just no scenario where I'm saying, I bet you walk away from that. It'll be fine. That to me is mind-blowing. But also one thing that I try and we will continuously try to highlight with these natural remedies, not just CBD. In this case, CBD was helpful, but natural remedies in general.
Yes.
Is they can help in these extreme situations.
Yeah.
They aren't just for, well, I had a bad day at work, so I'm going to take a CBD soft gel to put myself in a better mood, right? Like this was extreme pain, extreme stress, anxiety, grief. Yeah. I mean, you had
because I had to get back on the road to get to the airport. Your dad drove me to the airport and my head was down the whole time because I had to go the exact same route. I had my accident. Because I was going back to the exact same airport. And I had anxiety. And then we go into 2020 and everybody knows what happens in 2020. Yeah. And I lose my job and all of these things. And it wasn't just the CBD. It was, that was a tool I used. Right. I used a tool of my meditation. Then I got into daily gratitude journaling. Yeah. And just brain dumping the feelings that I was going through. Yep. I'm also one who believes in supplements. Yep. So here's this journey we talk about. My grandmother, 97 years old when she passed. Okay. She took a thyroid pill and a blood pressure pill. everything else was a form of a supplement.
There you go.
My mom, and I mean this from my heart, was a pill popper. If I sneezed, she had an antihistamine for me. If I had a headache, she had a pill for me.
Right.
If my back hurt, here's a muscle pill. And so you see that there's these two different, and this is the path I chose. And so I started this journey on that whole thing of understanding my body. Now, here's on this side is my son still doing his journey and them doing their journey. And he started running more severe. And he's like you, he didn't like running. And then when he was in the Marines, and he started finding that this running was helping him with his demons.
Yep.
And it was helping him with his PTSD. Yep. And he has causes within Vermont that his goal is, if he can save one veteran from taking his life, then
mission's accomplished.
Right. So he goes off and does these different races. So now he puts on this race called Devil's Den.
Very appropriate.
Very cool. Well, there is part of this race that there is this cave, and that's what they call it, the Devil's Den. But so now I have 2019. I have everything that went through. COVID has hit, and COVID hit us all bad.
Yep.
Just the mind. What happened to our minds of the unknown into everybody? And there is no politics here. There is no COVID, nothing. It just was mind blowing. Myself included.
Something that nobody alive had experienced.
Right. And so I started running with him.
Yeah.
And I decided I'm going to try to do this. I volunteered. That was it. I volunteered for his.
You were on the pit crew, right?
I was in the pit crew. I was volunteer for him when he did his first one in 2020.
Okay.
And I'm like, if I ever thought I was going to push my body, this would be something I would do.
There you go.
So that's where I trained for it for last year.
Yeah.
And this was the first time I ever did, Miles, a huge, big race. Yes, I did Tough Mudders. I did those. But this was the first time I ever would go in and go out for a 4-hour run.
Yeah.
Not to be the fastest, it was building endurance.
Right.
Now, I'm sitting in this race, going to go off, scared out of my mind. If you don't think there's self-doubt, there's fear, there is WTF, is, I'm not going to do this.
Am I in over my head? What did I sign up for?
If you don't think that's not happening, every athlete or every person starting a race.
Every time I do a Tough Mudder, I've done 9 of them. The last one I did at the start, I was like, oh man, what am I doing?
Yeah.
I didn't train well enough for this. I'm going to get my butt handed to me. And then at the end of it, it just feels spectacular. You're worn out. You're beat.
Oh, yeah.
But you earned it. You earned that beating.
People were coming over to me and they're like, you're going to run this race? And I'm like, looking at them like, well, yeah. And they're like, oh, I can't do that. I can't do that. And I'm like, well, why not? And they're like, because I'm 60 years old. I'm too old.
Right.
And I'm like, hi.
Yeah.
I will be 62 the day after the race. And so it's just like, and I did the race. I had a goal. I did not meet the goal.
Sure.
And that's okay, because the learnings were phenomenal. Yeah. It ignited a passion even more so. It ignited a desire to help more women. That's why I have that Michele Wellness 360.
Yep.
Because I don't want age to stop a woman. I don't want perfection to stop a woman. I live by the saying, lean in, do it messy
Yep.
every single day. Um, I want to be a voice for women who think are in menopause and life has ended. Life is beginning. Like, no,
Yeah.
you know, I won't get into menopause with you.
That's all right.
I won't do
I
that
get
with
it.
you.
Again, it's
Yeah.
all of these things have points in common, which are anxiety, stress, unknown, just difficulty, struggle, challenge. You
Yes.
know, and they're common in that a lot of people, most women, I think, you know, I know that that's sort of controversial to just go into that territory these days, shouldn't be, but
It should be.
um, most women are going to experience menopause. If I
Mhm.
guess all of them should. So, you know, if that's going to be a challenge, if that's going to be a struggle, and just from my 32 years on this earth and what I've heard at a distance, I hear it's pretty difficult. You know, let's talk about it.
Right.
How do you deal with that? Is it time to just curl up and die? Because I don't think other people agree that it is. Right? You seem to disagree with that, and I don't think you're the only one.
No, I'm not. And it was a struggle.
Yeah.
I put on like 25 pounds. My doctor told me, oh, just get used to it. That's what happens to your metabolism. And I love her. She has moved on to another profession, but at one day, that's where I said to myself, no, no. And that was another reason why I started doing these races with my son. And he was like, come on, man, let's go. Let's just do it. He's like, and he is not, my son is a very fast runner.
Yeah.
My son has hit some astronomical goals. He's one of 6 people that have done a race in Vermont that in 10 years, only 6 people have completed. Let me say that again. In 10 years, only 6 people have completed.
Wow. Unreal.
And, but he doesn't want me to run. He's like, yeah, that's speed isn't it. The philosophy is you do what you can at the pace you can with still pushing yourself.
Just get out there and do it.
Exactly.
Yep.
And so, women, we become with that brain fog. Your whole body is changing because again, it's a whole nother evolution that your body is going through.
Right.
So it is, yeah, you might have been able to eat those cheeseburgers and French fries, and your metabolism could have been, but now you can't. But you can still eat them. Maybe eat them more healthier.
Earn it.
You know,
Yeah. Burn
yeah,
the
earn it,
calories, right?
earn it.
Or just, you know,
Um,
the trade-offs we talked
yeah,
about. Find
there's
ways
just
to get those things.
exactly. And then, so I was training for another race. If you want me to continue.
Well, actually, let's take a minute here because I feel like we need to do a second episode. That was the rather abrupt ending to the first episode with Michele on the Better by Nature podcast. We had some technical difficulties that kept us from moving forward with episode 1, but we did get together for an episode 2. We did dive into Michele's second half of her journey with natural remedies and heard about some of the challenges that she's currently facing and most recently has been going through. So I encourage y'all to check out that second episode, jump back into the second half of her story here with us, and I hope y'all will feel better today.